Yeah, so he did a lot of stuff in biology, but as you say, his real entrance kind of onto the more popular scene was in the early 2000s. His publication of what became a #1 New York Times bestseller, The God Delusion, which got published around the same time as a couple of other volumes, one by Christopher Hitchens and another one by Sam Harris and Dan Dennett. Um, all of these things kind of coincided, and this idea, this title of the new atheism arose kind of as a result of some of these books. And the God Delusion is surprisingly not a lot of biology. There is some there, but it's generally speaking an attack on religious belief. Yeah, and presenting kind of what he supposes is a rationality for atheism. And there are a lot of books that kind of talk about why this particular movement was successful at this particular time. So many people, if you think about, well, what else was going on in the early 2000s, right? 9/11, 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and we see kind of the dawn of religious extremism hitting the world in the United States, and a very very tangible and impactful and very real way in which that affected our lives. And so I think some of that, people were already concerned about this. Well, what do we do about this, and how do we respond to this, and what is this? Because it was not necessarily something that people have interacted with much in the United States. And so this kind of cashed in a little bit on that. And Dawkins tends to lump the religions into this one major category of religion. He lumps kind of Islam, Muslim belief, and Christian belief, and Jewish belief in all under this giant umbrella of religion, which there's there's debate to be had even there in terms of can you really use, and you're trying to provide evidence, can you use some of the actions of one religion and then say that applies to all religions?
Mm-hmm.
There's some discussion that could be had there for sure. So he came onto the scene then, and along with these other guys, but it's Dawkins who kind of became the mouthpiece, as it were, for this kind of new atheistic movement. And it's interesting to consider, what's actually new about it. And I talk about this a little bit in the book, because atheism has been around for, well, forever, right? We could say.
Oh yeah.
And there are certainly people out there who have done before this, who are well known for their writings on atheism, Bertrand Russell and David Hume, and some of these others who are perhaps more thoughtful, maybe even than Dawkins, about their atheism. But new atheism has a couple of things about it that were really interesting, and I think that helped it in Western United States. And one of these is the style of writing. If your average person is not going to sit down and plow through David Hume, I think.
No, right.
It's not necessarily light reading. It's not necessarily sarcastic and funny. And Dawkins, when you read him, if you read him just as a writer, is really pretty good. He's humor, there's imagery, there's metaphor. He's very good at explaining concepts in ways that are intelligible and understandable, and as such, it's easy to read. And so things that are easy to read and palatable and simple and straightforward can easily capture your imagination and take hold that way. And so he and the other guys are been very good popularizers in ways that some of the more technical things that are out there that preceded them may not have kind of infiltrated into the more popular level, as it were.